Hi, I'm Chris Haigh and this is the Fiddle channel, and today I'm going to talk to you about intros and kickoffs. I've had several of my patrons on Patreon asking me about how to work out their own intros and kickoffs. And I'm going to do a kind of a survey of different genres of fiddle music and how the intro or kickoff varies from one to the other. So first of all, let's think about what is the purpose of an intro. And we're talking really about fiddle intros here. So the intro, it should, for the benefit of the audience and for the other musicians in the band, it should establish what the key is, the exact starting point when everyone's supposed to come in, and it should also remind the rest of the band and the audience what it is you're actually about to do. So an intro ideally should do all of those things. And you may think, well, the band doesn't need reminding what they're about to do, surely they should know. Believe me, I've been in plenty of situations where the band had really no idea what was happening, what was about to happen, what could happen. And if you can kind of remind everyone at the beginning, let's say you're in a barn dance and you've got a couple of deps in the band, having a good intro is really useful. And also in a barn dance, the caller expects it, the audience expects it. If you're in a scratch band doing, I don't know, a country band, someone has called the name of the song, but no one in the band has played it before, and believe me, that does happen. Then if the fiddler can give a strong intro, which will tell everyone exactly what is about to happen, then that will be very useful for everyone concerned. So that's what an intro should do. Now I'm going to start off with bluegrass kickoffs, and this is it's like a sub intro because often the kickoff comes before an intro, but I'll come back to that later. So a melody of a country song or a bluegrass song will almost always be on the root, the third or the fifth of the key that you're in. So if you're in the key of G, then you want to be leading up to a G, which is the root, a B, which is the third, or a D, which is the fifth. And there are different ways of getting to each of those. And the kickoff is normally going to be slightly less than 1 bar. It might be a whole bar, but it's normally not more than 1 bar. So if we start with the root, we're going to a G. You might do like that, or you might do, and there's probably several more as well. If you're going to the third, which is a B note, then you might go, or you could go, or. And these are all done right down at the heel. They're done quite percussively, with very short bows, that kind of thing. If you go into the fifth, which in this case in the key of G would be a D note, you could go, or, that's going up an arpeggio, or that which is going up a chromatic scale from the third of the chord. And a slight variation on the standard 3-note intro is what's it's invented by Benny Martin, and it's often referred to as the son of a bitch because of the rhythm of it. So the first note is replaced with a triplet, again right at the heel, very short, very percussive. That kind of thing. Now this can lead straight into either first bar of a tune, a melody, or it can lead straight into the singing. But more often the kickoff will lead into a longer intro, and the intro might be a whole round of a verse or chorus, or it might well be half of the verse or chorus. And I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of that. So Blue Moon of Kentucky, for example, we're going to play the that which is half, it's the second half of the chorus, and the kickoff can be that. In fact, I'm going to do it as down, up, up. That's often quite effective. And we're in 3/4 here. So that's given us, the band would come in on effectively bar 2 of this. That's where the band comes in. And by the time you've played those 8 bars, everyone knows what the tune is going to be. Everyone knows where it's going to start. So that's pretty effective. Now, I don't wish to give the impression that this is the only way you can lead into a bluegrass song, because if you listen to, let's say, the first few bars of a couple of dozen Bill Monroe tunes, for example, on a compilation, then you'll see that there are quite a few different ways of starting a tune. But I think the favourite, certainly today, is this kickoff followed by a longer introduction. Now, when it comes to classic country songs, and particular Hank Williams, the intro is very formulaic indeed. And I've done a whole series of Hank Williams songs, and I always say the most important thing that you have to learn out of the whole song is the intro. It will make you a real valued member of the band if you are able and willing to play a good, strong intro to any of these songs. So, Jambalaya, for example, we're going to have 2 notes as the kickoff, those, and then we're going to have the last 4 bars of the chorus. And this will often start on the 5 chord, the dominant chord. So in the key of C, we're going to start on the G chord. Boom, 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 and then we're into the song. Another example from Hank Williams, Setting the Woods on Fire. We've got a 3-note kickoff. So again, we're leading straight into the 5 chord and then finishing off on the 1 chord. And after those 4 bars of the melody, we're into the first verse. There's a particular intro used by a lot of contemporary Cajun country type songs, and this is a bit different from the bluegrass kickoff. It usually has 7 percussive 8th notes, and a good example would be the song The Cajun Fiddle, which starts, we're in the key of A1. And I did exactly the same in the middle as well, because it's quite effective there. And in fact, you can use the intro, the kickoff rather, at several points in the song, including at the beginning of a solo. It makes a really good intro to a solo, and that is the same with the bluegrass kickoff. Another type of intro is what's called a taters, and it gets its name. This is a Nashville shuffle, and it's 1 tater, 2 tater, 3 tater, 4 tater. That's the idea. This, I think, was popularised by Tommy Jackson, who was a very important fiddler in Nashville in the late 50s, early 60s. And he did a whole series of barn dance recordings of standard tunes, and virtually every single one of them started off with that kind of thing. So people got used to the idea that this was a good way to start a tune. It is of limited use because although it sets the tempo and it sets the key, it doesn't tell you anything about the melody that's about to come. And also it could be either two bars like that, or it could be 4 bars. Etc. And in fact, notice that I'd not noticed that before actually, but I was doing a kind of 2 intros. I was doing the taters followed by a kickoff. which does at least tell you where in the taters you're about to go into the tune. In barn dances or ceilidhs, you can do a 4-bar section from the end of the A section. So what I will quite often do is something like this. And so that's 4 bars. Yaka-da-dunk, da-2, da-dunk, da-3, da-da-da-4. And notice that I'm using a bit of body language as part of my intro. So a raising of the fiddle shows the rest of the band, in no uncertain terms, exactly where we are starting, because the rest of the band will be waiting, as indeed will the caller, for the end of the intro. And again, by you using your fiddle in that way, you are exerting a certain sense of authority. And people like that in the band. They like someone to know what they're doing. In Scottish ceilidhs, you will often not have that kind of intro, because everyone, from the audience to the band, is expected to know exactly what's happening at all times. So what will often happen will be a single chord, and the dancers at that point will bow to one another, followed by just maybe 1 note or 2 notes leading straight in. Or it could be, if it was, let's say, Dashing White Sergeant, that's your intro. If you're at an Irish session in a pub, you might ask everyone there what's the intro to an Irish tune, and they will all scratch their heads and look furtive, and everyone will realise that there is no such thing as an intro for a pub session. Someone starts, and after a couple of notes, everyone joins in. That's the extent of the intro in that situation. Jazz numbers, if you've got a band, then often there'll be some kind of a turnaround from the rest of the band before the melody comes in which case the fiddle is exempted from having to do the intro. But there are certain tunes that you can lead in. For example, Lady Be Good, I would do. So the guitarist would know from that exactly what was about to happen, and that they had to get there quickly. A longer intro from the band would be something like that, a kind of a turnaround or some such thing. You may well be asked to create your own intro where none existed before. For example, if you were playing, let's say, the Wild Rover, if you're working with a singing guitarist, they will probably launch into it themselves, and it's up to you to follow. But if you wanted to do it, you might do. You could do that, or you could leave out the cha-cha and just do. And a nod, and you're straight into the song like that. So that is kind of the Hank Williams approach, but ad-libbed. Finally, a couple of intros from British hit singles. And in this case, if there is a fiddle intro to a song, then definitely you should just learn the intro that's already there. It's when there's no kind of written or accepted intro that you have to worry about it. But a friend of mine, Bobby Valentino, who I used to work with, he played with a band called the Bluebells, or at least he appeared on their hit single, which was Young at Heart. And he came up with this lovely intro. And for that he was paid something like 100 quid as a session fee. And then when it was a huge hit, not once but several times, he decided that he had made a bigger contribution than his fee merited, and he went to court. And in front of the judge and jury, he played that intro and persuaded them that it was his creation, and that he deserved a fair share of the royalties, and he came home with supposedly £100,000. Good on him. I have played on one almost hit single, 5, 6, 7, 8 by Steps. I'm going to finish off with that. And this was the work of probably less than 10 minutes in the studio. This was their first single. I nodded to the band who were sitting downstairs as I went in, and I nodded again to them as I went out. And in the studio I came up with... Time to begin, count it in, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's my claim to fame. So I hope you found this useful. If you've got any questions or comments or good examples of intros or kickoffs, then do let me know. And you can get the PDF of the few examples that I've used here just by subscribing and letting me know. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.